Hello, this is Alfred Brock with the Wayne Focus, and today we're going to be talking about opioids. Opioids. There we go. Opioids. And problems with painkillers is the subtitle. We'll be paraphrasing this pamphlet here that's coming to us from Stay Safe series by Primo Prevention out of Reserve, Louisiana. Thanks, guys, for creating this material. It's so very important to talk about opioids and the problems that they cause. So problems with painkillers. Let's learn more about them. What are opioids? What are opioids? The term opioids covers a wide variety of drugs, ranging from legal ones like morphine to illegal ones like heroin. Please keep in mind that if you've got an opioid that doesn't belong to you and hasn't been prescribed to you, you're likely holding on to an illegal drug right there. So even though they're legally created and marketed, doesn't make them illegal for you to have them if you haven't been given a prescription for them and have a need for them. They're very unsafe. They're dangerous. You shouldn't have them if you don't need them, and you shouldn't be trading them or asking for them. Problem with elementary school children is they might exchange them saying, oh, you got a headache, you're feeling bad? Hey, I've got some vitamins over here, and that's been recorded. Got some vitamins over here. Why don't you try this? And pretty soon you've got a very dangerous situation, perhaps a drug overdose on a young child. And this happens and it gets more prevalent and possible as we move through elementary school years and go on into high school and college and university. The years of opportunity are becoming very dangerous for our children here in the United States of America and around the world. So the main function of opioids is to act on the central nervous system to relieve pain. And it's originally used in extreme pain situations like following surgery or towards the end of life. Okay, so legal opioids like oxycodone, codeine, and morphine are generally safe if prescribed by a doctor for a short time and in small quantities. Okay, if you're going for second and third refills, there's a problem going on there, and I'm going to tell you why. It can lead to dependence and to addiction. Whether or not you get the materials from a doctor or you buy them from a drug dealer, if you use them for enough time, opioids will cause any human body to become addicted. We'll talk about more of that. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. So the most commonly known opioid brands are Demerol, Percocet, Vicodin, and OxyContin. And of course, many people are familiar with the term heroin. And also, these days, fentanyl is being discussed widely as it has made its way out of the opioid market into practically every other drug that's used in the United States. Now, opioids versus opiates. Let's discuss the two words. Is there a difference? Well, the word opioid and opiate, opiate was more popular a few years ago, like 3 years ago. Mostly talking about opioids today, but let's hear what they're saying about the difference between the two words. So they're often used interchangeably, and they both work to relieve pain on the central nervous system. They're referring to the main difference is that how they're created. The name opioid pretty much encompasses drugs that include the synthetics and the semi-synthetic versions of opiate chemicals, and the word opiate refers to drugs that are coming from the active narcotic plant, parts of the opium poppy plant. And whether they're referred to as opioids or opiate, even the legal ones, even the ones you got in pill form that are synthetic, they're dangerous and they lead to dependence. That's just what happens. So say you get a little bottle of them and it tells you to take them for 30 days or whatever. And it says on there, use as needed or take one every 8 hours. If you follow the instructions over the course of 30 days, something's going to happen. Within the first 15 days, your body's going to get used to it. It's going to expect that chemical come into your body. It's going to start adjusting itself. A chemical change and a physical change will begin in your body as the poison begins to work. Over the course of 30 days, your body will become, if you are a human being, and you take these things over the course of 30 days regularly, your body will become dependent on it. If we go now out to 60 and 90 days, which would be 3 prescriptions perhaps of 30 days apiece, then the body is addicted. Even when dependent, feelings of withdrawal can occur. Fever, feeling sick, like you got the flu, stomach ache, sometimes very painful, and the pain increases when you stop it as you move along. And then just to let you know, for people who use it over a long period of time, they become acquainted with that pain, and sometimes they associate it with the fact that the pain didn't go away, and this is the only thing that will make the original pain go away. But the actual pain that they're feeling right now is the pain of having the drug, the chemical, not in the body, and the body seeking it, like a strong hunger to make up for that. So let's move on from there now. Hey, what's the lingo, right? What's the lingo? Well, there's street names for all this stuff, just like there has been for drugs time immemorial. So some of them are for the different kinds, okay? Because you'll hear some of these. Perks refer to Percocet. Oxy-80 and Oxycat refer to OxyContin. Demis and Miss Emma refer to Demerol and morphine. And there's other names for them and the different drugs. A lot of times they'll just say exactly what they're looking for and call it just that. But maybe not in front of you if they're a friend or loved one, because they don't want you to know what's going on. And people will also use the lingo because that's part of the language. It's a social situation as well, which makes things very difficult, because the ideas and experiences they have during those social experiences, some of them can be very, very vicious, life-threatening, life-taking, and it becomes a matter of course to just adopt that. So signs of abuse include a person showing small pupils, having noticeable euphoria or extreme feelings of happiness, and you're not having a party, you didn't go anywhere, you didn't even have really good lemonade, that person is really euphoric. So there may be some drug use going on there, and maybe a sign of abuse. Drowsiness or even passing out at odd times, like you're sitting there I know turkey makes you sleepy, right? But I've heard stories that are there at the Thanksgiving Day, go visit the family, right in the middle of if someone's keeling over and passing out right in the middle of a meal, time to have the discussion, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, constipation, because opioids begin to shut down the operation of the digestive system, so that's pretty ugly, Slow to breathing, sometimes extremely slow breathing. They're laying there, they're sleeping. Like, is that person alive? Well, keep an eye on them. Confusion over a long period of time. There's a number of other signs of abuse. There are behavioral changes that you can look out for, and those include, and reach out to them. Offer them if they want assistance, if they're having any problems or things like that. They may drop hints to you. Not likely, but it may occur. And reaching out to them, love and support, two of the main tools in this. The others are information and getting help, because behind the drugs there's this very sophisticated social system and market that is fueled by enormous amounts of money and violence and guns, right? So you want to go get some help and talk to some support folks, whether they be social workers, doctors, anyone you can talk to, family and friends. Okay, behavioral changes, what can you look out for? Reach out to them if you see any of the following, and keep an eye out. They shop for doctors. They go from doctor to doctor because this doctor wouldn't give them the pill that they needed, so the person needs to go to the next one. Meaning they keep getting multiple prescriptions from various doctors. After a while, it becomes apparent, even to the person doing this, hey, that's illegal. I could get really bad trouble for this. And these days, the doctors are beginning to look out for it because they have to work with some laws. But even though the laws are in place and the systems are in place, it's still possible to circumvent them and just get what they're looking for, what the folks are looking for. Extra pill bottles appearing in the trash, appearing around the house. Got some paraphernalia going on there? Well, social withdrawal and isolation, or the beginning of society with folks that they normally wouldn't have been attracted to or would have been doing things with, an abandonment of things they like and their pastimes, and dramatically changing moods. Could be violent or could be incredibly euphoric, strange, paranoid. So when those moods take place, and maybe it's not drugs, maybe it's the person just going through some difficulties, but having a social worker there, having the support, I mean, dealing with mental illness or dealing with a social problem or a mental problem, treat it just like you got a cold. Oh, I'm having a trouble with the society. I got to go see the society doctor and get all fixed up with that. Because you shouldn't suffer. No one should suffer. No one should suffer at all with something like that. Legitimate suffering set aside for now, right? Because we're talking about drugs. Okay, long-term signs of abuse. Let's check those out. If you don't die from the overdose first, says the pamphlet, Here are some other deadly side effects of opiate abuse or opioid abuse. You take any opioids, you're in danger of death at any moment. Because as I mentioned earlier, fentanyl has poisoned the drug market. Gee, I don't think I mentioned that. Fentanyl is also a very powerful opioid, and there are others. They call them analogs. They're similar to it. So if you had a chemistry set and you can make fentanyl, then you can make these other things because they're similar to it. More and more powerful as we go down the line. And the drug dealers are putting fentanyl in many of the different drugs, some types of marijuana, some vaping instruments, chemicals, and also cocaine they're mixing with heroin. We're putting that fentanyl in the heroin. So anyway, let's go on from there. Weakened or practically non-existent immune systems. Whoa, hey, this is like a chemically spurred AIDS, right? Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. It messes up the body's ability to fight disease. And what makes it worse is during the use of these drugs, especially if someone is sharing the drugs, either through the nose or through the mouth, or injecting it and sharing needles as time goes on, people will do that. Hepatitis becomes a problem and AIDS becomes a problem, real AIDS, right? And a variety of other diseases that can be have long-term consequences and even lead to death. So this is a big health problem right from the get-go. So other long-term signs of abuse are gastric problems ranging from mild constipation, which we discussed earlier, to deadly perforated bowel. Gets nasty. This is a poison. It was originally designed to relieve pain, and it's just gotten out of hand, and it's very profitable to make and distribute, whether it is the legal version or the illegal version. Very unfortunate. There are folks that use injection to do it. They're prone to infections at injection sites. It's not like they go to school to learn how to do it. They're not using top grade materials all the time. So, and if they're sharing things, here comes the infection. And a lot of times this drug use takes place in places that are non-hygienic, and all that hygiene stuff just right out the window, especially when they're using drugs. So most people inject opioids with needles in their arms to get a quicker effect. They use them all over their body, however, which can lead to lesions and pock marks and disease. Right? Using dirty needles can cause infections like abscesses, blood-transmitted diseases like HIV or AIDS. So, and there's organ damage. Organ damage comes along with it. We're going to read here: your lungs, liver, stomach, intestines, and kidneys can all be harmed by opioid abuse and begin to fail. Let's not forget the brain. The brain is impacted as well. Chemical changes begin almost immediately prior to dependence, and during dependence they get set, and during addiction they continue and get worse, affecting the natural distribution of the regular things in your body that make you happy or sad, and these intense assaults on this system by these drugs overcomes all that. So you'll see sometimes when people withdraw or stop taking it, especially after a long period of time, and they feel like, I feel nothing, I have no feelings, I'm not out of touch with my emotions. And at that point, they are really not having any feelings because their body is healing, and they're used to this overstimulation and cannot recognize the natural levels of stimulation. So looking for the surface feelings, the surface stimulation, while missing the more profound feelings of love, caring, respect, self-respect, and all those sorts of things. The happy feeling I get from a strawberry milkshake, right? Wouldn't register at first after they start taking it. Over the course of 16 months, the body and mind can heal. So, can be done. Over the course of 16 months, it can take up to 16 months for body to mind and heal, but it could happen beforehand, depending on what's going on with the person. It's very difficult to stay away from the drugs, but it can be done, especially with love and support from everyone around and the person taking the steps necessary to do that. So let's go on again with what we've got next. Withdrawal symptoms. This is a big one in the drug society. Withdrawal symptoms. Oh, you don't want to withdraw, you might die. With alcohol, you might die if you just stop drinking alcohol. If you've been an alcoholic and you're drinking a lot and you just stop, you could die from that. That could kill you. But with heroin, with opioids, unlikely. It's a great idea to work with the doctor, and of course if someone stops and starts having very severe problems, then they should immediately go where? To the doctor, right? Go to the emergency room, go say, hey, I'm withdrawing, I need some help. And they do that, it'll be okay. So let's listen to the let's listen to these symptoms. Withdrawal symptoms. Headaches. Well, what do you do about that? What would you do if you just had a headache? Well, you'd prepare for it, right? Feeling nauseated and vomiting. What would you do with that? Keep the plastic bag handy. You know you're getting sick. I'm not making fun of it. These are two very simple things, but they're blown way out of proportion in the drug world, especially by drug dealers who warn that you may die immediately, you need to taper off, etc., so forth. And they chalk up each and every sale anyway. Diarrhea. Diarrhea. So you got to be careful that you don't dehydrate, so you got to keep the water around, right, if you get the diarrhea. Sweating. Anxiety. You're worried. Especially after the second day for some folks that if they've been very, very long users of opioids and they really want to use it again, the anxiety is wrapped around, when am I going to get my next drugs? Well, that's not going to happen if you're stopping, right? Exhaustion, but not being able to sleep so that people stay up. They're up for a couple days or whatever, trying to get through this, feeling anxiety, running to the bathroom, got a headache, got to lay down. So way to do it, prepare as if you were going to have influenza for a long time. And they're getting the flu and you need to take care of yourself for a few days, right? It's time to take care of yourself for a few days. And having someone nearby is helpful, and people who love and support you. You don't want to keep doing that though, because that's nasty. That's just not fun. But life-threatening, hey, the drug dealer is lying when they're selling this stuff to you. They're going to lie to you about stopping using it because they want you to keep on buying, right? So facts and statistics of opiate use in the United States. This goes for opioids too. So a survey in 2010, way back in 2010, that was 22 years ago. Last 2 years, let's see, 2020, we had over 104,000 drug overdose deaths. And last year in 2021, there's over 106,000 people in the United States died from drug overdose deaths. And that's not including the folks who are physically and mentally harmed by this, sometimes for long periods of time, and sometimes for the rest of their life. This is a very, very serious issue. Not using these drugs when they're absolutely not necessary, very important. So, in 2010, it revealed that 210 million opioid prescriptions were filled. 12 million people admitted to abusing opioids by taking them for non-medical reasons. That is a statistical percentage of the population of the United States. That's pretty serious. 12 million people using opioids for what? Okay. And that's not counting the people that it has been prescribed to. Because if you're prescribed it, within 30 days, your body becomes dependent upon it. And 60 to 90 days, as mentioned earlier, the body will become addicted. And then if they need to withdraw, we already heard the withdrawal symptoms, right? Work that through with your doctor and your family and friends. Now, more people die from opioid overdose than any other overdose of an illicit drug combined. And that stands up for the past 2 years. Over the course of the past 10 years, this has been a very, very, it is a serious cause of premature death. Very bad. Young children, young adults, middle-aged adults, older adults. This is some nasty stuff. So what we're talking about is very important. Teens and opioids. Teens, stay away from the opioids. The family members watching out for that, right? Now, opioids are actually pretty easy for teens to get, particularly Vicodin and Oxycontin, because it's pretty commonly prescribed for pain, especially after surgery. Or, in the case of some folks, after they get a sprain. Can you believe that? They give them a little bottle. Here, take these for 30 days because you had a sprain. When I had a sprain when I was a kid, stay off it. Don't be dope. Take some aspirins, etc., and so forth. Opioids? No way. These days, they were giving them out. And there are a number of instances, too many to count, where these children are given that for 30 days. And as I mentioned, they got the phantom pain afterwards, right? So they get refilled 20 or 2 or 3 times. And at this point, their body is addicted. They are unaware of this fact. They become uncomfortable afterwards. They mention the story. There are people already selling opioids in the schools. It's a simple matter for them now to enter into the illegal trade. And some of them head right on down a road of destruction that is really reprehensible to allow to continue. All right, let's get on with this. The teens, right, think it's because it's prescribed by a physician, and adults also, we mentioned this earlier, certain opioids then therefore are not dangerous. I'm not going to go into where that idea came from, but it's been around for the past 20 years. they're greatly mistaken for that. Okay, these things are very dangerous poisons. Opioids are actually pretty easy to get right. Okay, parents should also be careful watching their children to prevent them from using the opioids. It's estimated that last year, 3% of and this is 2010, 3% of high school students misused OxyContin, 8% abused Vicodin, and those are some serious things, right? Now, only 1% of high school seniors that used heroin. The teens who abuse Vicodin or OxyContin are more likely to try heroin later if they become dependent on the opioids and they need, it says here, to look for something harder, but they're just looking for something to relieve that pain. And the things that relieve that pain are illicitly gotten OxyContin and Vicodin and all those names, pills, liquids, heroin, fentanyl. Okay. All right, teens are also more likely to try combining opioid with alcohol. And let me tell you, there's a big problem on campus. Lots of deaths and lots of injuries occurring on campuses, college and university campuses, from the overuse of alcohol. Way too much alcohol, and then combining it with other drugs. Serious, serious problem. There we go. Okay, it's not just teens, ladies and gentlemen. And then we have a story about a young lady who talks, Paige's story. And this is about her. She got some wisdom teeth removed, and then she was given some OxyContin, and before you know it, she was using the painkillers, and she couldn't get any more. They cut her off, right? Because you don't need them anymore. You only need to take them for 30 days after you get your teeth pulled out. Well, if you don't know that, and you got the withdrawal going on, that leads to a very serious situation. And as I mentioned, it's very easy, way more easier now than in 2010. Every city, town, village, little place where people live in the United States of America, you can get these opioids anytime you want as long as you've got the money. Drug problem is very serious. It is everywhere. So I want to thank again the folks who put this together. This is the state I read from the Stay Safe series. We paraphrased it, added a few things, updated some stuff, and it came out of Primo Prevention and Reserve, Louisiana. Thanks, guys, for that. And this is Alfred with the Wayne Focus, and we were talking today about opioids, problems with painkillers. Watch out for yourself, watch out for your family and friends. Thanks for joining, and have a great week. Be safe.